What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking about the Stealth Milano nerf that happened sometime in the last couple weeks. Just yesterday I was playing Rebirth, and I kept getting really frustrated because I kept losing fights with the Milano as my sniper support, and I didn't know why. Usually when that happens, I go check it, and it's no different. It's just me playing bad or something like that. But this time, um, the next day, this Aussie guy sent me a Twitter message and said that he thought it had been changed. He tested it and got 39 chest damage. So I went in and tested it myself, and I found that they completely have stealth nerfed the Milano across the board. So we'll go through all of the changes today that they made to the Milano and talk about what I think is the new best sniper support, given that the Milano was easily the best before. It's really not that good anymore. We'll see as we go into the stats. But as always, if you guys like the content, consider subscribing, liking, and commenting. That really helps us out. So let's jump into it, and we will talk about the Milano nerf. All right, so they basically changed the whole damage profile except headshots. So the damage range was reduced slightly from 21 meters down to 18 meters for the one drop off the Milano has. And it basically increased shots to kill by 1 across the board for chest shots. So this is chest shots, 250 health. And you can see it's 1 extra shot to kill, which is a pretty dramatic increase in TTKs. Like a 90 millisecond increase in TTKs, which is a lot. So it used to be pretty fast, and now it's pretty slow. Stomach shots in the second damage range, it's an extra shot to kill now, and it was already slower before on stomach than it was on chest. So now it's really, really bad in stomach shots out of range. And it does have that slight reduction, but it is the same inside that 18-meter range as it was before. And then extremities is exactly the same in terms of TTK. The only difference is that 3-meter difference in damage range. So that's not significant, but the difference in chest and stomach TTKs is very, very dramatic and very noticeable. Like I said, I actually noticed this was different when I was playing Rebirth. So it really, really is noticeable and significant, and basically makes the Milano no longer the best sniper support. So we'll talk about the other things that I think are competitive with that slot now. All right, so I've done a lot of experimentation with this last night after I found out about the Milano nerf. So I actually have a pretty good handle on what I think would be the best sniper supports now. So I've built the 6 best sniper supports I can right now, and I also include the Milano just so we have something to compare to. So AK-74U, PPSH, Kilo actually. So Kilo I put on there, but really Kilo, Grau, Ram 7, M4 all are okay right now for sniper support. But Kilo I think might kind of edge out the best just by a little bit. MP7, Cold War AK-47, again Milano for comparison's sake, and then Bullfrog. So looking at the charts here, up close, the MP7 is going to have the fastest TTK for sure, and then followed by the AK-47. Then that's followed by the AK-74U. The AK-74U is actually in a pretty good spot right now, and it's very easy to control. So it's a really good option. Kilo again. This is the Cyan line here. It's a pretty good all-rounder right now. It's going to be really bad at range because it has that 3rd damage drop-off, but you're using this as a sniper support, so you're almost never going to be using it outside those first 2 damage ranges. You'll be using your sniper out here. So that's not really an issue. And then PPSH actually is pretty solid as well. That's this magenta line. I think PPSH is kind of a more aggressive option than the AK-74U. I'll do a direct comparison of those two a little later on, but then the Bullfrog is slightly slower than the PPSH everywhere. It's this brown line. It's kind of hard to see in there, but it's a little bit slower than the AK-74U. And then the lighter pink line is the Milano, this one. You can see it's just pretty much slower than everything now on chest shots. If we go to extremities, you're going to see the ARs kind of take a lead here. The Kilo and the Cold War AK are going to have much better TTKs just because they have that 556 damage profile where they don't change from chest down to stomach down to extremities. They all have the same damage for all those, whereas SMGs are going to have different values for extremities. So this is kind of where the assault rifles will shine, is just the consistent TTKs across the board, but where they don't shine is in mobility. So if we go look at the actual summary stats, sprint to fire and mobility are where assault rifles really struggle for SMG roles or sniper support roles. So we've got the AK-47 over here and the Kilo here. And you can see ADS times. AK-74U, it's definitely very slow for an SMG, but it doesn't feel that slow. It feels very usable still. The Kilo is actually supposedly a little bit faster with these builds. AK is a little bit faster as well, but still those are the 2 slower ones of the group. along with the AK-74U. PPSH has very, very good ADS times. Again, they kind of balance because it has a little bit of an open bolt delay. They usually balance an open bolt delay with better ADS times. So the PPSH has very, very good ADS times. MP7's a little slower than PPSH. Milano, again, Milano had very fast ADS times because it had a big open bolt delay. So even with this build, it's still 264, even though it has a lot of things that slow it down. Bullfrog has great ADS times with this build as well. Obviously, I will talk about the builds later on for these weapons, so you guys have my recommendations there. But Bullfrog is very good all around. AK-74U is very good all around. Kilo MP7 are going to be slower because they're monomorphic guns. So if you look at mobility here, the Kilo is going to be the slowest by far at 4.58 meters per second. MP7 is in second place, second slowest at 4.76, and then all the Cold War guns with their builds are over 5 meters per second. So that's very, very nice for a sniper support and just getting around the map quickly. It's very important to have that in close-up fights and really just any sort of situation where you need to move. Obviously, having good movement speed is important. ADS movement speed is going to be the same story. Kilo's going to be the slowest, followed by the MP7. And then pretty much all the Cold War guns are dramatically faster. They're all in the 3+ meter per second, which is very good for ADS movement speed. The fastest is going to be the PPSH across the board. PPSH has very, very good mobility, 5.2 meters per second movement speed, and 3.6 ADS movement speed is very, very good. It's harder to control in the AK-74U, but it has better SMG characteristics where it has a faster fire rate for better flinch. It has better movement speed, better ADS movement speed, but it is harder to control. And I'll show you a recoil comparison between those two. These are the two guns that I'm leaning towards mostly for sniper support in this meta. I will just say that. But let's finish the comparisons. Hipfire. Of course, the SMGs are all going to have better hipfire than the ARs, but because we have the 5 milliwatt on the Kilo, it actually has pretty good hipfire down at 6.6 kilopixels squared. AK is going to have terrible hipfire because 1, it's an AR, and 2, it has the Raider stock on there to get those sprint to fire times down. And then Milano and MP7 have fantastic hipfire always. Bullfrog has just default SMG hipfire, and then bullet velocity is not super important. Pretty much all the Cold War SMGs top out at about 420 with the builds that I have set up for sniper support. Basically, they just have cruise suppressor. There's no barrel on these builds because the barrels for SMGs are kind of just bad. They're not really worth using right now. Hopefully, they kind of change them like they did the assault rifles and LMG barrels for the Cold War guns. They haven't done that yet. As far as reload times go, they're all pretty much very similar, between 2 and 2.5 seconds. Not a huge deal here. PPSH has a very good reload time down at 2 seconds, though. So PPSH is looking very strong for an aggressive sniper support player. All right, so I'm going to take this chance to show off a new feature on the site that's coming pretty soon. This is damage per mag charts. So this is, it says TTK and DPS charts. That's just because I built it in the same place as the TTK and DPS chart. So I just haven't updated the characters yet in the text. But this is a plot of the damage per mag given the mag size and the weapon. So you can kind of see how these different guns have different damage per mags at different ranges. The top is going to be the Milano still. This line here is the Milano with the most damage per mag across literally everywhere. It has the most damage per mag, and that's just because it shoots really slow. That 55 round drum can put out just tons and tons of damage, followed by the Bullfrog with 65 rounds. So that's the brown line here. Mostly for sniper support, we're going to be looking inside about 30 meters. So that's like right over here. Cutoff's right in here, to the left of that. So the damage per mag of the Bullfrog is fantastic. Obviously, it has huge mags and doesn't have a super fast fire rate, so it puts out a lot of damage. And then followed by the PPSH. PPSH out at range has similar damage per mag to the Milano, actually, which is the leader. And then inside that first damage drop off, it's a little bit lower. It's down at about 1800 damage per mag, but still very, very good for damage per mag. And it's great that it has ridiculous mobility and that huge damage per mag. AK-74U also shoots slower, has a smaller mag, only 50 round mag, but it hits hard because it shoots slower. So it still puts out a ton of damage in the first damage range, a lot more than even a 50 round Kilo, and way more than a 50 round MP7. So I built the Kilo and the MP7 with the 50 round mags because of mobility reasons. I'm trying to get them to speed up so they can somewhat compete with the Cold War guns, but even doing that, they don't really compete in terms of mobility. Damage per mag is also a lot lower because we don't have the biggest mag on there. And then AK-74U out at range, good damage per mag again. There's nothing to worry about with these top 4 guns and damage per mag. That's a lot of damage you can put out. So it's really good for trios and quads. So I mentioned that you could use the Kilo, the Ram 7, the M4, or the Grau really in this same slot. They're all very, very similar in terms of statistics. So basically the Kilo has the worst mobility of them all. The Grau has the best mobility of all 3, or all 4, but it has a little bit worse TTKs than the Kilo. The Kilo has very, very similar TTKs to the Ram 7. The Ram 7 has slightly better TTKs, and then the M4 is kind of just a mixture of all of it. It's just kind of good everywhere. It's not the best anywhere, but it's just good everywhere. So really, I'm kind of leaning towards the Kilo because the TTKs are almost the best of the group. The Ram is just a tiny, tiny bit faster, but the Kilo has much better recoil. It does have a little bit worse mobility than the Ram and the Grau, but I think that extra control is worth it. So if you're interested in trying something a little weird, something that most people wouldn't probably use, I'll talk about my Kilo build that works pretty well. I actually had some good games with it today when I was trying to figure out what to use. I don't think it's the best option, but it is an option. Same with the MP7. MP7 is great. It's just the mobility is just not there compared to the Cold War guns, and that's frustrating. And it's not because of the base stats; it's because of the attachments. They don't have the same effect on the weapons for Cold War guns as they do for Modern Warfare guns. So it's kind of just frustrating to me that they didn't balance them the same way. There's just a couple simple things they could do to fix it. Would be make the long barrels not affect movement speed on Modern Warfare guns, make the Commando foregrip not affect movement speed, and make mags not affect movement speed, and then boom, you have a balanced game as far as movement speed is concerned. So I don't think they'll ever do that, but it would be really simple to fix. So I kind of skipped over sprint to fire times when I was going over the stats of all these builds. Pretty much the assault rifles are going to have worse sprint to fire time all the time, no matter what you do. You can put 5 milliwatt on the Modern Warfare guns. You can put stippled grip tape on the Modern Warfare guns. You can put the Raider stock on the Cold War guns, but they just never quite get to the SMG level of sprint to fire time. That's just the way they balance SMGs. So you can see the Kilos at 217 sprint to fire, 313 tactical sprint to fire, and the AKs 275 tactical and 179 regular sprint to fire. And then the SMGs are all down around 100 for regular sprint to fire and around 200 for tactical sprint to fire. MP7 comes out on top because it has the 5 milliwatt on top of the standard SMG low sprint to fire times. So that's why I got addicted to that with the Milano, having that super good sprint to fire time while still being effective at range. So I feel like I almost can't go back to playing an AR in the sniper support role just because I got so used to being able to push buildings and things with really good sprint to fire times. Cold War AK is not that far behind. It's only like 60 milliseconds behind on both sprint to fire and tactical sprint to fire, so that's not that bad. That is probably doable. My top 4 options currently would definitely be AK-74U, PPSH, Cold War AK, and Bullfrog. Those are 4 fantastic sniper supports, so those are the ones I'm going to give you the build for. I'll give you the one for the Kilo as well, just because that's interesting and something a little bit different to try. MP7 is the same as my previous sniper support video, so if you're interested in that, you can go watch that video. I posted it like a week or 2 ago. But yeah, let's jump into these builds for the top 4 as well as the Kilo. All right, so I build the PPSH and the AK-74U the exact same way, same exact attachments. I do GRU suppressor, Spetsnaz grip, which is the same as the field agent grip. That gives you better recoil both vertically and horizontally. I like optics. I don't know what else to say. I think playing on mouse and key, optics are more important than when you're on controller. I think aim assist can help you sometimes when you can't really see the enemy. Like if someone drop shots you, aim assist can really help in those kind of situations. But for PC, I feel like mouse and key, I really need to be able to see my target all the time. And I just like optics for that. I think it's, for me personally, totally worth it. If it's not for you, you can replace it with something else, but I pretty much use optics on almost everything at this point. So this is the build that I use. Like I said, GRU, Spetsnaz grip. Biggest mag, but not the fast mag, just because that kills your ADS times. Tiger Team Spotlight for better mobility. Both really just the AK-74U doesn't have as good of mobility as the other SMGs, so it's really important to have that Tiger Team. The PPSH has fantastic mobility, so you don't need to use that. You could get away with using like a 5 milliwatt instead. But I still put the Tiger Team on there just because it's really good to be really fast, good movement, and things like that. But this is the build that I would recommend for both the AK-74U and the PPSH. Like I said, exactly the same. Let's go compare the recoil between these two. All right, so I've got 3 recoil patterns here that have been basically balanced with the amount of damage they put out. So it's really only fair to compare the amount of recoil per output damage. So basically, the smallest damage per mag was the 50 round AK-74U, so that's on the left. And then in order to balance that with the 671 round PPSH, I only shot about 67 bullets with the PPSH. That's about the same damage output as 50 rounds with the AK-74U. And then the Bullfrog is over here on the right. Bullfrog has the highest damage per mag, so I only had to shoot about 53 bullets to get the same damage output as the 50 round AK-74U. So these were all three shot from exactly 10 meters. We got exactly the same builds on all three of them. So AK-74U, PPSH, Bullfrog. The Bullfrog, perfectly straight arc up and to the left, perfectly straight line up and to the left, and then it just literally stops after about 25 bullets, but you almost never hold the trigger down that long. So you're almost never going to get to that point. PPSH has more of a curvy shape than either of them. It's not too bad. It is a little weird to get used to, but I think you could definitely master it. It's definitely doable. As far as horizontal bounce, all three of them look pretty similar in terms of horizontal bounce. They're pretty tight lines, really. AK-74U obviously has the most vertical recoil per damage output by far the tallest line here. But it's extremely consistent, and it's up and to the right, which is what most guns are, so we're much more used to controlling that. Bullfrog has always been weird where it goes up and to the left. Not very many guns go up and to the left. So that's a little bit harder to get used to. So really, I wouldn't say any of these are significantly worse than the others. I would say you should try all three of these guns and see which one feels the best to you. It's going to be different for every person, which recoil feels the easiest to control. For me personally, I think I like the AK-74U the most, even though it has the most vertical recoil. It's just so consistent and just a perfectly straight line that I can control it really well. So for me, AK-74U feels good, but I do want to give the PPSH more of a try just because I really like the mobility that comes with the PPSH. I also like the damage per mag being a little bit higher, so I'll be trying the PPSH out a lot. I don't love the Bullfrog. The Bullfrog's always felt a little weird to me, just probably because it goes up and to the left. That's just personal preference again. So I would try all three of these out and see which one feels the best to you. Alright, so this is the Cold War AK build. Phenomenal sniper support still. It's just really good everywhere. I just have gotten addicted to those sprint to fire times, like I said, so I'm still trying to use an SMG. We'll see if I can get used to it. If I can't, I will probably be coming back to this. So Grease Suppressor, Bruiser Grip, Grease Suppressor, Bullet Velocity Damage Range, and doesn't hurt ADS times that much. Also helps the recoil a little bit. And then Bruiser Grip for mobility. 45 round mag, because this thing reloads so fast and has really slow fire rate, you can get away with 45 round mag really easily. Talked about optics already. I love optics. I think the iron sights are okay on the AK, so if you're someone that likes irons, maybe swap Millstop for Tiger Team Spotlight just to get your movement speed up and get it closer to an SMG. And then KGB Skeletal Stock is essential in my opinion because it gives those really good sprint to fire times and gives you more mobility when you're ADS and firing. So this is going to have horrible hip fire, so you can't really hip fire this. But a lot of people don't hip fire at all anyway. So the KGB Skeletal Stock gives you really good mobility when you're ADS, so it's okay that you can't hip fire. So this is the Kilo that I tried out earlier today, and it actually worked really well. It felt really good actually. Monolithic suppressor, bullet velocity damage range obviously hurts your ADS times. I use 50 round instead of 60 again for mobility reasons. It's 10 bullets different, and the 60 round slows you down a lot more. And we're trying to make this more mobile so we can get around the map and do better in close quarters engagements. So I think 50 is fine. You still have good enough damage per mag with that, definitely. Pretty quick reload. 5 milliwatt weight. This is essential again for sprint to fire times mostly. It also gives you great hip fire, but it is an AR, so it's gonna have worse hip fire to start with. Kind of brings it down to SMG hip fire. Stippled grip tape for ADS times and better sprint to fire times. And then for the 14,000th time, I like optics. The irons are okay on this. If you wanted to run iron sights, you could potentially put on one of the stocks, like maybe the ADS stock or the aimed walking movement speed stock. Those would be both good options. I don't like no stock at all. No stock, when they nerfed no stock, it was probably like a year ago now. For the Modern Warfare guns, it just makes the recoil crazy, super bouncy. And I need this thing to be effective out to like 30-40 meters in some situations. So I just can't use no stock. Alright, so a real quick summary. Milano got a huge nerf. It's no longer the best sniper support. It's not even really close to the best sniper support. I got addicted to using the Milano with good sprint to fire times, good mobility, and basically all the perks that come with an SMG as a sniper support. So I'm going to be trying really hard to make one of these other SMGs work. Someone's going to ask me about the CX9. The CX9 I think is just too slow to be a sniper support. Mobility is just really bad. I got all the stats up on the site for that, by the way. Worked all day yesterday on that. So you can go check that out if you want. But the barrels and the 50 round mag just really kill the mobility on that thing. So it's never going to be able to compete with like a PPSH or an AK-74U just for that reason alone. I think this is my personal favorite build for the PPSH and the AK-74U. Those are gonna be the two guns I'm focusing on trying to learn to use as sniper support. But I gave you the rest of the builds with the other guns I think are really good as well. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video. Just wanted to get that information out to all of you. So I hope you guys have a good day. I'll see you guys all in the next video, which will hopefully be out tomorrow.